It'll be just a minute while they start dialing. We're going to get a lot of voicemails first. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. The Congresswoman Duckworth will be on with us in just a couple of minutes. We want more neighbors to get on the call if we can. Now, if you have a question of the Congresswoman, please, by all means, press 0. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. And what will happen is you'll talk to one of our screeners, and they'll type up the question, and we'll have you ask the question live to the Congresswoman, very much like talk radio. So again, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. If you have a question of the Congresswoman, by all means, please press 0. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. Also, if you want to provide us your email address so we can provide you email updates from what's going on in Washington, by all means, press 7. Press 7 on the keypad on your phone if you'd like electronic updates on your computer, email updates. We need to get your email address. So 0 for questions, 7 for email updates. And I'm going to go about this one more time. But when the Congresswoman comes on, I'm going to be asking her to talk about the MOM Act, which she introduced, and cutting waste on the Armed Services Committee. Now, the kind of questions we're looking to take today, we're going to be focusing on these particular topics: Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, or immigration. So if you've got questions regarding those particular topics, and I'll say them again: Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, and immigration, please press 0 on the keypad on your phone so we can get your question queued up. If you'd like to provide us your email address for email updates, you press 7 for that. So one more time, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. We really appreciate you joining us today. If you have a question, please press 0 on the keypad on your phone with the topics I just mentioned. Congresswoman Duckworth, you're going to talk and talk about the MOM Act, which you introduced, and cutting waste on the Armed Services Committee, and with some other points. And then after that, we're going to take some questions. So please take it away.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tammy Duckworth, your Congresswoman. Thank you so much for joining me today on this telephone town hall. With the busy lives that we lead, I know it's really difficult for many of you to find time to come out to one of the many events I attend and hold all around the district. So I'm really glad we can connect on this town hall via telephone. I'm hoping to give you a better sense of what's going on in Washington, and I'm really excited to answer your questions and hear your views. You know that most Americans aren't participating in our democracy right now, so thank you for being on the call. This is what the American way of life is about, and you're exercising your democratic rights, and I thank you for that. And also thank you for guiding me as I do my job to serve you as your public servant. Today, I really want to focus on a couple programs that mean so much to millions of Americans, Medicare and Social Security. Since Social Security and then Medicare were signed into law, millions of Americans have relied on these crucial programs to live their lives with dignity. Millions more who paid into the system are counting on Medicare to one day provide them with quality health care, and they are counting on Social Security to return them the money they paid into it for their retirement. This historic commitment and pledge from our country is one of the greatest achievements. Seniors like my mom and those living with disabilities all understand the essential role that Medicare and Social Security play in the lives of so many Americans. But unfortunately, over the last several years, Congress have proposed ending the guaranteed benefits of Medicare and cutting Social Security to reduce our deficits. And, you know, these same members of Congress are the ones who refer to the programs as entitlements, and that's simply not accurate. These are programs that you have paid into and earned, and this is your money. So what I've been doing here in Washington is proposing ways that we can cut spending in government in order to maintain Social Security and Medicare. And one of the places I've often looked has been in the Department of Defense budget. Now, as you all know, I'm very much a strong on defense person. I want our troops to have all of the very best equipment, and I want our veterans to have the very best care possible. So it makes me really mad when I see waste that happens in the Department of Defense. We've looked at a lot of things from an Inspector General report found that there was $1 billion in unused spare parts for a vehicle that the military doesn't really use much anymore, sitting in a warehouse in Georgia. And they just kept buying spare parts, even though they stopped using this type of military vehicle. So I made the military come up with a plan to dispose of that $1 billion in spare parts and get that money back and put that money back into the nation's budget. And we were successful to do that. And we just got a response back from the DOD with the plan. And indeed, they're going to be able to recover the entire $1 billion. One of the other things that I'm working on, and that this just passed today, so the folks on this call are the first to hear about it, but today the MOM Act passed, and the MOM Act is the Military Opportunities for Mothers Act, which is a bill that I introduced with Kristi Noem, a Republican from South Dakota, that will provide military women with 6 more weeks of maternity leave. Right now, civilian women and women who work in federal government get 12 weeks under the Family Medical Leave Act, but military women only get 6 weeks, even if they've had a cesarean section, and even if their bosses want them to take more than 6 weeks, they're not allowed to. So the MOM Act was passed today, bipartisan. We had many, many, many co-sponsors. The last count was over 72 different Republicans and Democrats signed on. It goes over to the Senate, and I'm hoping that the Senate will pass it as well. But, you know, military mom, I mean, it's tough enough being a mom. But when you're a military mom and you have to put your uniform back on and report back to duty, sometimes that duty station is Afghanistan. And I just want to make sure that our military women get the time that they need to recover, just like their civilian sisters do, and that our children have the opportunity to have the best start in life, which can come with a full 12 weeks of maternity leave. So very proud that bill passed today, and I thank everyone who supported it. And really, again, thank you, everyone, for being on the call. And it would be my honor to take your questions at this time.
And for the people that just joined the call, I want to remind people we're focusing questions today on Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, and immigration. And so if you have a question regarding that, please press 00 on the keypad on your phone. If you'd like to provide us your email address so we can give you email updates from time to time, by all means press 7 on the keypad on your phone. Our first questioner of the afternoon is going to be Frank. Frank, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Frank, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
My name is Frank. I live in Addison, Illinois. I'm 70 years old. I'm a veteran. Don't like what's going on at the VA. It's been that way for quite a few years now. But I'm a former patient of Hines, and I'd like to hear Tammy's reply. Push Bauman further. They got to do something with the VA because you got all of the former military people aggravated. The other thing is, most of my stepchildren, my sons are passed, but most of my stepchildren are in their 40s or early 50s, and they're wondering if there's even going to be a Medicare program. And is Tammy or whatever, they're going to do something to make changes that are fair and equitable for all.
Well, hi, Frank. It's Tammy. Thank you so much for your question. I actually still go to Hines for my health care. And I will absolutely be pushing the president and the administration and the VA to do better. When I first started going there, I don't know about you, if you remember, we used to, as patients, have to sit in the pharmacy and sometimes wait 3-4 hours just to get our prescription that the doctor wrote for us. And now it gets sent to my house. So things are getting better there. I think that there are some real big problems with the VA, and I'm really proud that I get to be here and to talk about it and push hard. And I don't know if you've seen the coverage in the news in the last couple of days, but I've had some pretty tough words for the VA. I'm pretty disgusted with what's happened, and I'm going to continue to hold Secretary Shinseki and the president and everyone at the VA accountable. As for Social Security and Medicare, there are a lot of things that we can do to make sure that it's solvent for many more years. With Social Security, if we lift the income cap for it right now, somebody who makes $1 million pays the same amount as someone who makes $100,000 or less than $100,000 into Social Security. And if we lift that cap, it actually makes it solvent for another 70 years. So that would take care of your stepchildren and grandchildren who are in their 40s and 50s. And that's one thing we can do immediately to fix the problem. The other thing that we can do, you talked about Medicare. Medicare needs to be there for folks, and one of the ways we can help solve the problem with Medicare solvency is to go after the waste, fraud, and abuse that's in the system. Now, 90% of Medicare payments and claims are accurate and the way they should be, but 10% are not. And Medicare has reported that 10% of all the payments they make, they know are waste or outright fraud. So we have to go after that. It's about $1 billion a week gets wasted. So what I've done here is I'm co-sponsoring a piece of legislation with Congressman Peter Roskam, and he represents the 6th Congressional District here in Illinois. He's my neighbor, and he's got a bill that will go after some of the waste and fraud in Medicare. And so I have co-sponsored it with him. And so it's a bipartisan bill, and it makes sure that we are not wasting the taxpayer dollars so that we can keep that money in the system for the 90% of people who truly need it and who are, who have legitimate claims, and to make sure that the system is there for the long term.
I want to remind people that just got on the call, if you have a question, especially on the topics of Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, immigration, please press 00 on the keypad on your phone if you have a question in those departments. Press 7 if you want to provide us your email address. And we have a polling question for you right now. Should the guarantee of Medicare be replaced by a voucher system? If the answer is yes in your opinion, press 1 on the keypad on your phone. Press 2 if it's no. Should the guarantee of Medicare be replaced by a voucher system? 1 is yes, 2 is no. We really appreciate the participation. Next, we are going to take, I got to just click over to this because this one is down the screen. Now, lots of people wanting to ask questions today. We're going to take Margaret. Margaret, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Margaret, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Hi, from Barrington, 60010, Margaret DeLulo. Actually, on Medicare, you cannot answer that in a yes and no type of situation. That's not fair. And then, but just recently, I posed a fax to Honorable Duckworth, and it had to do with Social Security. My husband and I are retired, and he has to work in retirement. He's worked in retirement over 15 years, and we get nothing from it. And it's not fair because he's had to pay into Social Security since retirement hundreds, thousands of dollars. And I'm asking that there be a bump up on money earned income in retirement to, hey, add a $20 or $50 to the Social Security, whatever the figures could be worked out. And we're not the only ones in the boat. Many other people are forced to work in retirement, and thank God they can get a job. So,
Congresswoman, your thoughts?
Well, I think that we need to take a longer look, and I'm more than happy to take a look at ways that we can improve Social Security so that we make sure that that the system is there in the long term and that it's fair for everyone, especially those who are working well into retirement. And there are some things that we can do to reduce the cost of Social Security, but I don't think it should go that. The fixes to Social Security should be on the backs of those who are in retirement or those who are nearing retirement. I understand that our national deficit is too large, but I'm really concerned about attempts to lower things like the Social Security cost of living adjustments, the COLA, or raising the age, or forcing people to continue to pay more into the system who've already paid their fair share. So I agree with Margaret that we need to take a long, hard look, and I'm willing to try just about anything to make sure that we keep the system solvent, as long as it does not put added burdens on our seniors and on those who, have already entered the system, especially folks who are nearing retirement at 45 or 50 years old. That's really, really tough. And let me just say one quick thing, which is that if anyone has any Social Security issues and need help, they should call my office. My caseworker is Sue Giannone. Just ask for Sue. There's only one Sue in my office there in Schaumburg, and that number is 847-413-1919. Again, if you have any Social Security issues or Medicare issues, call my office. Talk to Sue, my caseworker, at 847-413-1959. I'm sorry, that last four is 1959. And we can also help you if you have a special case and you want us to take a closer look and make sure that we can help you.
All right. Before we take our next question, I want to do another polling question if we can. The polling question goes like this. Should we be raising the age of Social Security? If the answer is yes, press 1. If the answer is no, press 2. So should we be raising the age of Social Security? 1 is yes and 2 is no. We really appreciate your participation. We're next going to take Patty. Patty, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Patty, where are you from and what's your question, please?
I'm from Glendale Heights, and my question is, Social Security, again, has just changed the wordage of the donut hole to coverage gap, and is there anything we can do to help with that? Because I just went to the pharmacy to pick up 2 prescriptions that I've been taking. One was 90 days. My cost was over $500. The second prescription, which was a generic medication that I need, was $145, and my Social Security check monthly is $700. So what can be done to help that?
Oh, my goodness. Well, Patty, that is, you're in the classic case of what so many of our seniors are facing, which is the donut hole. And this is part of the Part D coverage, especially for brand name prescription drugs. And one of the things that the Affordable Care Act is doing is that it's going to close that donut hole. What it will do, it will give you a 50% discount on buying the Part D brand name prescription drugs, and the discount should be applied automatically when you go to pay for your medication at the pharmacy. So you shouldn't have to do anything to get it, and the donut hole should be closed by 2020. But it's one of those things that's being phased in right now. And I will take another look and see your situation particularly, because that seems like an awfully high $700 is awfully expensive, and some of that 50% discount should probably already be applying to you. So if you want to reach out to my office, I'm happy to. We can take another look at that and see what's going on. But the Affordable Care Act should be closing that donut hole, and so you should see that discount start taking effect automatically when you go to the pharmacy. And it should have started to take effect already.
All right, let's take another question if we can. We're going to take Joanne. By the way, if you do have a question, and we're trying to get to them as fast as we can, press 0 on the keypad on your phone. The question subjects are Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, and immigration. If you want to provide us your email address, press 7. But as I said, Joanne's next. Joanne, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Joanne, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Okay, I'm from Villa Park, and I think it's about Social Security. And I would like to know why. I mean, we've got such trouble with it. Number one, why isn't the money for Social Security walled off? It should never have been allowed to be used by the Congress for anything it wanted to. The money should have gone into Social Security, stayed in Social Security. That's one thing. The other thing that would also help Social Security would be for Congress people, and I think their aides also are exempt from Social Security. They have their, quote, pension plans. Well, I think it's time Congress got down in the trenches with the rest of us. I think it's time they were, what do you want to call it, eased into Social Security. They should have to abide by the rules the rest of the country abides by. And it's the same with Obamacare. I don't know how you voted on it, but you and your aides that work with you in Washington are exempt from Obamacare. Or you're given large amounts of money to get whatever you want.
Hi, Joanne. Well, let me just say a couple things. One, I agree with you that we should be walling off Social Security so that that trust fund, no one is allowed to take money out of that trust fund, and the dollar should definitely remain for Social Security. And that's what's happened with previous administrations where they have pulled the money away, and I would be very supportive of walling that off. As for the other things that you've said, I think there's some inaccuracies. You may be getting bad information. I actually do pay into Social Security, and all of my staff actually pays into Social Security. There is no such thing as a congressional pension. All members of Congress, the president and the vice president, all federal judges, most political appointees started having to pay into the Social Security program in January of 1984. Since 1984, all the members of Congress and their staff members, the president as well, vice president, everyone pays into the system just like everyone else. And for Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, we are all in Obamacare as well. In fact, I signed up for it back in December, and all of my staff did also. So we are in the same pool and going through the same thing as everyone else, and I think that's very important, and you bring up a great point. And you know, in the Army, I learned to not just talk the talk, but walk the talk. And I can assure you that we all pay into it. And there's a myth out there that there's something called a pension for members of Congress. It actually doesn't exist and hasn't existed since at least 1984. I am a new member of Congress, so I was not here back in, I believe it was 2009 or 2008 when the Affordable Care Act came up for a vote. But I have to tell you that me and all of my staff members are in the Affordable Care Act system. We all went onto the exchange just like everyone else and waited and worked through the computer system and got signed up.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Our third and final polling question of the day: what should Congress focus on this year? Now, there's 5 possibilities. Here goes with all 5. Press 1, the Affordable Health Care Act. Press 2 if it's immigration reform. Press 3 if it's the economy and jobs. Press 4 if it's transportation and infrastructure. Or press 5 if it's Social Security and Medicare. So again, the question is, what should Congress focus on this year? Press 1 for the Affordable Health Care Act. Press 2 for immigration. 3 for the economy and jobs. Press 4 for transportation and infrastructure. Or press 5 for Social Security and Medicare. And we're going to take another question if we can right now. We're going to take Connie. Connie, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Connie, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Schaumburg, Illinois, and my question is, why is it before you get on Medicare and you have medical insurance and pharmaceutical, the prices are so much cheaper, and once you get on Medicare, it's double and triple? And my husband's from Greece, and he's made calls there, and I can get some of my medicines. I'm an asthmatic. I can get much cheaper from over there, half price, if not less, than I can here. I haven't done it yet, but when I'm over there, I stock up. And I don't think it's right once you get on Medicare that you have to pay so much money for prescription drugs when you never had to do it before you were enrolled on Medicare. Why?
Connie, this is a very, very common question I get, and the reason is President Bush negotiated away the ability of Medicare to get cheaper drug prices. What happened is when you were on the health insurance program, say Blue Cross Blue Shields or Kaiser or any one of those, they use their bulk purchasing power in order to negotiate for cheaper drug prices from the drug companies. It's kind of like when you and I go to the drugstore and we buy, you want to buy some Tylenol. And if you buy, one of those small containers of Tylenol that only has 10 pills, it costs a lot more per pill than if you buy, the family-sized jar of Tylenol that has 200 pills in it. And unfortunately, under Medicare, during the Bush administration, President Bush supported and they passed a law that says that Medicare is not allowed to negotiate for lower drug prices. And so Medicare pays a much higher price than other folks who use their bulk purchasing power. And I agree with you. It does not make sense. And I am opposed to it, and I would love and have pushed and have proposed to make sure that Medicare is allowed to negotiate for lower drug prices. You know, in the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, a federal agency, actually negotiates for lower drug prices because they buy so many prescription medications, and they're allowed to do that. But a sister agency that's also a federal department of the government, like Medicare, is not. And it's stupid. It's stupid that we're doing this. And so we have to make sure that one of the fixes that we can make to Medicare, that we pass the legislation so that Medicare can actually negotiate for lower drug prices. But that was something that was given away a few years back, and we need to take that back because it simply doesn't make sense. And then the burden falls on our seniors who depend on Medicare, folks like my mom, who, you know, that's where she gets her medication as well. I'm just as outraged as you are, and we're pushing hard here to try to get that fixed.
We had a polling question we did before. Should we be raising the age of Social Security? No, 2-1 over yes. 68% no, 32% said yes. What are your thoughts, Congresswoman Duckworth?
Well, I don't support raising the age for Social Security. I think that, you know, if you're 55 years old and you're getting close and you've been counting on Social Security and you're going to be retired, we can't change the rules on you. And as I've said before, there are things we can do to fix and Social Security now. An earlier caller talked about walling off the Social Security trust fund so that government stops raiding it to use that money for something else. The other thing we can do is we can actually lift the payroll contribution above the $100,000. I think it's $106,000, so that the wealthiest folks who are paying into Social Security, you know, it should be proportional. And that fix will keep Social Security solvent for over another 70 years without having to raise the age. So there are many things we can do before we start doing something drastic like raising the age, because it's simply not fair to workers who entered the system. They were told this is what the rules are. They're playing by the rules. They're paying into the system, and now we can't change the rules on them when there are other things we can do in the meantime to fix the problem.
Let's take another question. I wanted to remind people, if they did have a question of the Congresswoman, please, by all means, press 00 on the keypad on your phone. Again, the topics are Social Security and Medicare, jobs in the economy, constituent services, helping veterans, and immigration. If you'd like to provide us your email address, press 7 to do that. Meanwhile, we're going to take Dana. Dana, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Dana, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Yes, I am from Schaumburg. She just hit on my question. I want them to take the cap off of how much Social Security taxes you pay in your payroll deduction. I want people who earn $40,000 to pay they pay on their $40,000, but the person who makes $150,000 should keep paying as well.
Thank you, Dana. You are exactly where I am on this, which is it's really unfair the way it's set up right now, so that the people who make the most money pay the smallest percentage on their income. If you only make $40,000, you know, you pay a certain percentage. But if you make up off $100,000, you're paying at the same rate at those who make less than $100,000, and it's very unfair. And we can fix that. And I fully support raising that. In fact, not just raising it, but getting rid of it completely, so that it's, you know, it's based on your income. If you make a lot more money, then you should pay based on the percentage of your income, not on just a fixed dollar amount that we set arbitrarily. And again, that would keep Social Security solvent for at least another 70 years, and we can keep working on the system. Thank you so much, Dana, for calling in.
We also were asked earlier today a question that came in about constituent services and what's offered at the office. Could you elaborate on that, please, Congresswoman?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, I wanted you to tell people how they can basically get in touch with the office and everything else, your office number, and
sure.
For any constituent services or anything else, how people can get in touch with you.
Yes, it's one of the best parts of my job is doing constituent services. So if any of our constituents, our listeners, have any problems, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, immigration, any issues to do with the federal government, please call my office in Schaumburg. That telephone number is 847-413-1959. 847-413-1959. And I have several caseworkers, and we have folks who are specialists in Social Security and Medicare, and we have folks who are specialists on veterans claims and benefits. We can help you get in touch and work with federal government if it comes to immigration issues or business issues. If you're a small business person or you want to start a business and you just don't know how to work with the Small Business Administration, we can connect you with the right person to help you with that. So we have lots of folks in my office who can help, and we're more than ready to stand by and say hi. And if you can't come to the office, so we do go out, and we are all over the district. We do what we call satellite office hours, usually at a public library or perhaps a village hall. So keep your eyes out for those announcements. We usually put that out into the newspaper, and we let the newsletters from your village, and you can come to those as well. But if you want just to come into the office yourself, please give us a call and we can set up an appointment. That number is 847-413-1959. I'll say it one more time, 847-413-1959, and that office is in Schaumburg.
Thank you so much. Let's take Gail next if we can. Gail, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Gail, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Elmhurst. I'm in my 70s. I'm a widow. I'm horrified by many of the things that are going on right now, the VA and everything, but I'm wondering, is there not some way we can go back to the time when Franklin Delano Roosevelt had programs to help people that were unemployed, maybe the people that need to learn how to do something, and also build our country back up. Everything, the bridges, the highways, everything is a mess. People don't have jobs. They're sent overseas, jobs like jobs I used to do, customer service. Why is it we can't do something with the people here, giving them a purpose to working, learning how, and also building the country back up?
Well, Gail, I think that we need to continue to put more money towards exactly what you're suggesting, which is help folks learn a new trade. If you're working in an industry that is no longer as profitable, is no longer in business, then we should have programs to help you be retrained and learn new skills. And we're doing that in the district through most of our community colleges, so College of DuPage, Harper Community College, and Elgin Community College have partnered with the federal government, and I, through my office, I'm going to be helping them apply for federal grants so that they can set up worker training programs to help folks learn new skills and new trades. And then I also, one of the first things that I did in Congress for our veterans was introduce the Troop Talent Act, which requires the military to help our men and women in uniform get the licenses and the certifications for the jobs they did in the military, so that when they come out into the civilian world, they have the proper licenses to get a civilian job. And you're right, our infrastructure is crumbling. I would be fully supportive of some sort of a program where people could go to work fixing our infrastructure. But one of the things that I'm doing immediately is I'm working with Secretary Fox, who is the Secretary of Transportation, to try to bring some dollars back to the district to fix the bridges and the roads and the railroad tracks in the district. Just last week I was out in Elgin looking at the train tracks over the Fox River, and it hasn't been fixed in over 80 years. And so I'm working with the Metra and the trains and the village to try to get $17 million in grants from the federal government in order to fix that bridge. But, I think that training programs are something that is worthwhile to invest in. I'm supporting them. We're doing them through the community colleges, and then to try to get some federal grants to come in and then to fix our infrastructure, because that will put people back to work as well. Thanks so much for your call.
Well, thank you. I wanted to remind people last time, if you had a question, please press 00 on the keypad on your phone. And if you want to provide us your email address, please press 7. That's 7 on the keypad on your phone so we can get you electronic updates from Washington. We're going to take Bev next. Beverly, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Beverly, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I live in Schaumburg, and I actually don't have a question, but I do appreciate this opportunity to say publicly how wonderful and how expedient Congresswoman Duckworth's office was in helping me get my Medicare Part B started. It was delayed by 8 months, and I don't know why, because I certainly qualified for it. But for some reason that they could not tell me, Social Security held that Medicare Part B up. So thank you, Congresswoman. I'm very glad to have this opportunity to tell you that.
Thank you, Beverly. Who in my office helped you? Was it Sue or Tricia?
I think it was Sue.
Yeah, Sue is a rock star, Beverly. Sue has been doing casework for many, 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 many years. And she is just so knowledgeable. Well, I'm glad we were able to help you, and getting to help my constituents is the very best part of my job. And I'm so glad we resolved that problem for you. And for anyone else who has any issues, please just call my office. If we can't handle it, we will put you in touch with the right people who can. And that number is 847-413-1959. Thank you.
Before we take some other questions, I reminded myself, actually, you had some opening remarks that not everybody might have heard concerning your introduction of the MOM Act and your work on cutting waste on the Armed Services Committee. So before we take Frank and then Ben, can you share with us your thoughts on those, please?
Yes, so the MOM Act, I'm so proud, passed today out of the House, and it heads over to the Senate, and I'm hoping it will pass the Senate. It is the Military Opportunities for Mothers Act, and what it does is gives 6 more weeks of maternity leave, unpaid maternity leave, to military women. Right now, military women only get 6 weeks of maternity leave, so they get 6 paid weeks. This bill would give them another 6 unpaid for a total of 12 weeks, because that they sometimes you just need more time to recover and more time to spend with your new baby, and babies are healthier if their moms can stay home with them a little longer. Civilian women and women who work for government get 12 weeks under the Family Medical Leave Act, but military women don't. And, you know, I sort of think that our military moms need special attention, because when they go back to work, they put on a uniform, and sometimes where they work is across the oceans in places like Afghanistan. And right now, even if they've had a cesarean section, and even if their boss wants to give them the 12 weeks, they're not allowed to. They have to go back. So this would give them 6 weeks unpaid that they can choose. If they don't want to and they want to go back after 6, then they're fine. But it gives them another 6 a choice if they would like to take the full 12 weeks. And I think that'll be better for our military. It'd be better for our military women, and it certainly will be much better for our babies in our military families. And so I'm so proud that passed. The other thing that I'm working on is on looking at waste in fraud and waste in government, and everything from the Medicare system to the Department of Defense. And I continue to go after waste that does not help our military men and women, that we can do a better job. Things like buying spare parts for vehicles that we don't use anymore and spending money needlessly. So I'm going to keep my eye on it and make sure that the money we spend on defense goes to the equipment that our troops need and to support our military men and women.
Well, thank you. Now let's, if we can, take another question. And it's going to be from, we're going to take it from Frank, if we can. Frank, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Frank, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Elmhurst. I had a question about the problems at the Veterans Administration, and particularly Hines.
Sure, Frank. Well, I think that, I go to Hines too, and I think if you're talking about what's happening in the news right now, it's happening in Phoenix and a couple of other VA facilities across the country, and it looks like they're hiding how long it takes veterans to get an appointment. Veterans should only have to wait 14 days, it appears, we don't know for sure yet, but it looks like that there are issues with veterans having to wait 6 months or even a year, and that's just not acceptable. I think that, we need to hold the VA accountable, and I'm certainly keeping my eyes on it. That's why I continue to go to VA for my primary health care. One of the things that we did this week, and I voted for this bill, and it passed this week, was a piece of legislation that would allow the Secretary of Veterans Affairs and the top-level veterans officials to fire VA employees at the very top who are not doing their jobs, because sometimes when you get very high up in the government, it gets very difficult to fire some people, and this bill would actually makes it easier to fire folks so that they don't just get shuffled around from one facility to another, and they can get demoted and they can be punished. And I think that's really important when we see wrongdoing, because it absolutely is disgusting to me, and it makes me furious to think that there would be anyone who would do anything other than the very best job that they can to serve our veterans. And if they exist and we're going after them, I do think the vast majority of VA employees work very hard and care very deeply about veterans. But if there are bad ones out there, then they need to get fired.
Let's take another question right away if we can, please. It's going to be from Ben. Ben, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Ben, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Yes, I'm from Elmhurst. I, too, am a veteran, 79 years old. Use the VA for my primary care. Fortunately, my health is, I would consider to be excellent, so it's probably once a year for an annual and then maybe one other time. The thing that bothers me, but by the way, at one point they told me it was 3 weeks for an appointment because they had messed up someplace along the line. And they just said to me, if you need assistance, just go to the emergency room. We must take you. So I never had a problem that way. On the Medicare issue, it seems as if, and unfortunately this seems to be the typical tactic of the whole federal government, they always tend to be reactive, not proactive. The article in the paper the other day regarding the doctors where all year, for a whole year, every patient that he saw under Medicare got, let's say, I call it stage 5, I think, which is the highest degree. It seems to me within about 2 weeks with a computer system, proactive, that doctor gets an email which says, you got to prove to us why you need this in the future, and you seriously blunt it rather than letting them get away with it for such a length of time, number one. Number two, although I appreciate the fact that you signed up for the, I'll call it Obamacare, how many of the other politicians decided to sign up for it to show that maybe we should all be under this plan versus keeping their own? You may catch.
Congresswoman, your thoughts.
Well, Ben, first off, thank you so much for your military service. And if I go by your age, then I know that you served at the very least during the Cold War as well as prior, and thank you for keeping our democracy safe. And I think you have been reading my mind and Congressman Peter Roskim's mind on Medicare fraud, because the bill that he and I are co-sponsoring, the PRIME Act, actually would do exactly what Ben is proposing, which is that it would prevent the fraud and help prevent improper or mistaken payments related to the programs. And part of it is to use a new computer program that actually would track these physicians and their request for payments to see, wait a minute, well, how come this particular physician's office has an awful lot of this type of problem that's not very common, but it happens to be really expensive. So, Ben, you are right on the front lines. What you're proposing is exactly the piece of legislation that Mr. Roskim and I are co-sponsoring. I'm hoping that it comes up for a vote and we can get this thing moving so that we can be, as you said, more proactive and less reactive on Medicare fraud and waste. And as for the Affordable Care Act, 100% of the members of Congress are required to be in it now. When the law came up for a vote, whether or not they should be in it, not everyone voted for it. but it did pass, and everyone is required to. We all lost all the members of Congress and their staff members. The health insurance program that we had prior ended at the end of last year, and so we all went into the health exchange under Obamacare. Now, I think some people declined completely and are not in it at all, but I think most of us are in it. And I know that I made sure that all of my staff are in it. There was one little clause that allows some members to exempt some of their staff members from the system, but I did not do that for any one of my folks. All of my people are in it.
We're coming to our allotted time of how long we're going to go on this call. I want to remind people, if they had a question and they didn't have an opportunity to ask the question, please leave us a voicemail at the end of this call. And what happens is that you need to leave us your name and your phone number and your email address if you have one, so we can get back to you. So leave us that voicemail. Stay to the end of the call. Congresswoman Duckworth, bring us to the finish line, please.
Well, again, thank you, everyone. It's been really nice to listen to folks, and really, really interesting that many of you had recommendations and suggestions that seem like common sense to you and me that are currently in the works in Congress, whether it's to lift the payroll contribution for Social Security, or like Ben's recommendation, which is to be more proactive in going after fraud in Medicare. These are exactly the things that I'm working on, and these are exactly the things I'm sponsoring here in Washington. So thank you, everyone, for participating. I hope to see you at one of my Congress on Your Corner events where I come to your town. I do lots and lots of those. And if you need any help, please call my office in Schaumburg, and that is 847-413-1959, 847-413-1959, or come to one of our satellite office hours that we do all over the district. Again, thank you, everyone.